And here we are again. It's going to be an English slot right now. And we're going to talk about security. A huge topic at CeBIT, especially. I think we had a special security model or topic at CeBIT 23rd. Oh, no, my God, we are already in 2016.
Yeah.
It was 2014. And we've been talking a lot about security in the cloud and how can we secure our server industry and the server infrastructure here in Germany, and especially for the kind of smaller businesses. So I'm very glad to have Eddy Willems of G-Data. I constantly say G-Data.
That's okay, It's G-Data in German and G-Data in English,
It is, but even though it's a German company, and actually I was just born next to Dortmund. I'm originally from Dortmund. Bochum. G-Data is based in Bochum, yep, on the Königsallee. I know that.
Exactly.
And so therefore, well, Eddy, how can you define your position at G-Data? Everyone is calling themselves. It's so interesting. You have so many interview partners from so many different companies in here, and they all have quite exciting job and professional definitions.
Yeah, I know. Well, I have an interesting title as well, I think. I'm a security evangelist. However, because you have a lot of evangelists, we have evangelists from Microsoft, Apple, and something like that. But, I'm the guy who is very technical, actually. But I try to translate all those technical things into normal language. And so I give a lot of presentations, I give a lot of lectures, I talk to media, press, and actually my public is something from 12-year-olds to 120-year-olds. And actually 12-year-olds to 87 is actually at this moment...
That's your main target.
That's my main target, Yeah, really, it's really strange, but actually, yeah. And together with that, because I'm a security evangelist, I'm also a board member of 3 industry organizations, which is quite strange because that's not normal,
Yeah.
So I'm also part of what we call the ICAR organization, which is behind the ICAR test file, very popular because to test that your antivirus is working.
Right.
I'm also a board member of AMTSO and board member of LSEC. So a lot of titles. But anyway, security evangelist, speaking normal language, that's the most important thing you need to know.
And I'm pretty sure you have a tight schedule.
Exactly. Oh, well, yeah, I can talk for ages, if you want.
Well, you're not only a security expert, but you're also an author. So we have one of your books. It's called Cybergefahr. That's a German issue. And even though that Eddy is from Belgium, he obviously got a translator for his book. Here we go. And you know what? We have 2 of them. And we're gonna make a giveaway next week on mobilegeeks.de. So we're gonna make sure that some of these are getting in your hands. You know what? If I compare, I remember the mid-'80s. The first time I heard about viruses, a computer virus, was probably in 85 or 86.
Yeah, that's true.
Roughly around that time. And I think G-Data was established in 87, 88?
86, 87, something like that. Yeah. So we're actually, at the beginning of the viruses, we started the business as well.
Yeah.
So it's actually 86 is what we call the first PC virus. Well, we got the brain virus. And then it all started, and then we were rolling. And then, of course, also G-Data came up with their first AV program, actually on CeBIT. So you see, it's a long story,
It's almost 30 years ago.
I know. And for me, it's more or less the same thing. For me, it started at 89.
Okay.
89 is also a very special year because 89 is the start of what a lot of people see these days: ransomware.
All right.
Yeah, 89, I got in my hands, I was not working for an antivirus company at that moment.
Yeah.
So I was working for a big, let us say an insurance company. And, I received a diskette in my hands, and that was actually the 8th information diskette. And it actually encrypted my PC, and it asked for about $200. That was 89. And then people are saying, ransomware is just a new thing.
Exactly.
It is not a new thing. It's a very old thing, you know. But yeah. Well, that's because they don't know their history.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, when we look back at the history of I mean, the way I tried to explain by saying, the first virus that I've heard of was in the mid and late 80s. When we look at the history of this and how this market just grew like in an exponential way, and now it's like almost a daily topic.
It is. Yeah. It became a real big topic actually. It's every time if you open a newspaper or if you just go online, there is no day at all that you can see, that you have no notification of a problem related to a security threat or whatever. And that's the problem. You know, it became something very usual, but which it isn't. You know, we have at this moment of talking, we have about more or less 500 million malware files, which is an enormous amount of problems actually if you compare it with the problems. So it's a big thing, you know. But the problem is as well that most of the stuff you can't see it. So people think that most of the stuff is very visible.
Right.
But that isn't the case. 99% of everything is invisible for the consumer or for the or for the company, and that's the biggest problem. Because the biggest problem is the things you don't see, and then they don't consider that they are infected or something like that. Right. But that's a mistake, of course, because they need to be prepared for that.
Is it okay to ask you when was the last time that your PC or whatever electronic device got infected by whatever malware? Did it actually ever happen to you? I can't remember it anymore.
I can remember it in '89.
There you go.
And then it never happened anymore.
And it was probably the last time for me, it was probably on a Commodore Amiga. I remember it was constantly crashing with this Guru meditation weird screen.
It's actually, the problem as well is, you know, if you take the necessary steps to stop viruses, to stop malware, to stop security threats, you're actually quite safe. Well, you can't block everything, of course, because you have, of course, also governmental services like NSA and all that stuff. We can talk about that later on eventually. But, you know, actually 1989 was really the first time I was infected and the last time. Because I thought, damn, this is a bloody bad thing. Let's try to react on this. Let's try to see what we can do about it. And actually, it's more than just only installing, you know, an antivirus system. That's one of the basic steps. It's the first protection. If you don't have it, even on a Mac, because people on a Mac don't.
Right.
Yeah, but they can't get infected. That's all. That's what they always say. Anyway, so. You need to have an antivirus system, an antivirus protection on your system. But the other thing is very important as well. It's the human factor. It's the human behavior. And that's very important. If you see something like a mail coming in, which is not coming from, somebody you know, why are people opening such kind of emails?
That's a so-called picnic situation.
Exactly.
You know that one?
I know.
Problem in share, not in computer.
I know, but it's actually it's not that difficult, you know.
I'm not getting it. Right?
Of course, you can't do everything, you know, because also, of course, you are not completely in control. However, I always say, and it's also in the book actually, a cyber problem. Actually, it's a law. Actually, it's the second law of Willems. Okay. Somebody told me, put a law in the book. That's a professor who told me this. I thought, why it's funny to put a law.
Let's create a law.
So let's create a law. And I created a law, something like a cyber problem is really related to, well, the human factor and the technical factor. Mm-hmm. If you take away one of these, you don't have the cyber problem anymore. Think about it. It's always.
I like that.
I know.
That's pretty smart.
And it's a very simple rule, but it's really the case, you know, because or we do something wrong, or it is related to something. So it's always related to those two kind of things.
Yeah. What was the? I mean, when you look back over the 3 decades, what was the craziest, the most complex attack that you've ever faced, maybe even on a global scale? What was the fiercest worm or malware, ransomware, you name it?
Oh my God, that's a difficult one, because you see, from time to time,
Or maybe the smartest.
yeah, well, from time to time you see a lot of things coming to us, and sometimes you see something very strange. Sometimes you don't see anything, and you've been, let us say, contacted by a big company, and they told you, well, we have a big problem. Well, that partly was also the case. For instance, I think the Belgacom case was a quite interesting one. Belgacom is a very big internet service provider in Belgium, and actually it has been attacked by Regin, which is actually some kind of, well, let us say, governmental spyware. Actually, this is a very unique thing. If you look at the malware itself, it was, of course, 6 months, maybe a year, undercover in that company, and it was really, nobody saw it, what it was doing. Of course, it was gathering information, sending it back to the NSA. These are the real problem makers. These are the real problematic. This is the real problematic malware, actually, because they're on a different level than what we call normal malware.
Right.
And that's also becoming a real problem. The guys from the NSA, the guys from other China, well, every, all those secret services, they have their, malware creators, actually. Right. And they're actually working in a very high technical way. So they can really create some pretty good malware, actually, which is really going under the cover. Under the, you can't see them.
Right.
So, and that's the problem. So, and the problem is as well that we see this malware, we investigate the malware, and after that we are going to publish something about it. The problem is that the other cyber criminals are watching it. They see, oh, that's quite interesting. Let's maybe use part of this kind of mechanism. So by doing that, they eventually are increasing, and they are really, even improving the malware they are creating. So it's a bad sign. It's a bad thing that the secret services are doing, actually. They are showing the cyber criminals how to do it. Damn.
Because they're also analyzing it.
Of course, yeah. But we're also showing it, and we're analyzing it, and we're publishing something about it.
Right.
Cyber criminals are looking at it, and they are adapting their own malware. And then, of course, they are going to even improve their malware. And we have, of course, a harder time to battle against it, which is a bloody shame.
I like to say there, I'm not sure if I like that idea, but what you just defined, what is coming from secret service and from governments, they're basically creating almost like little crawlers, right? Like what Google is doing to index the web. Yeah. They're taking over this idea and indexing and gathering private information or secured and
that's also the problem from gathering all the data, of course. And the thing is, we are losing all that data, and actually it's part of the privacy, of course. And I think it's still an important thing for the people. I think we are still underestimating the privacy problem.
Right.
Everybody is running around with his phone, with his location services on. Come on. Why? Okay, to have a notification when I'm getting home or something like that, but if this then that, or whatever, you know what I mean. So it is, sometimes it's very useful. However, we leave so many traces on the internet and in the, big data, that data can be misused as well against you, and that's not a good thing. So we're losing actually completely our privacy. even if we are battling it, I think we are losing it completely. Not completely, maybe, because still we still have some organizations standing up against it. We still have some trying to have good laws, definitely over here in Germany. But still, it's very hard to see that we don't lose all the data and that they get in the wrong hands.
Isn't it interesting to see, how, like you mentioned it already, that users, the customers are not so restrictive with their personal data, with their privacy. Like you said, okay, we were constantly getting, we have a GPS positioning, constant location, and we're connecting to so many networks with our cell phones. We're using these prepaid cards for 0.5% of return, right? We were basically giving those supermarkets everything, all details about what we're buying, right? Which is, I think, a combination of location and what you're buying tells a lot about you, right?
Exactly. You can learn a lot about these data. It's very easy to track down where you are. You can see how what people are doing. You can see that people are traveling or not, which could be also quite interesting.
Yeah.
And this is data which is actually sometimes also sold to other businesses. In the US, for instance, they are selling really this data. So and of course theoretically, that our data is not always going to all these kind of mechanisms and all these kind of organizations, but still we can't control it completely, because what we see, if we have something like a smartwatch or whatever, or a Fitbit or whatever, something like a step counter, then that data is also put in the cloud. But if you read the EULA, the end user license agreement, well, who reads it?
Who does it exactly?
Exactly. So the only thing you do,
80 pages on an iPhone.
Yeah,
right?
on an iPhone. So what is? You go to I agree. Okay, nobody reads it. And even if you read it, you will find something like, well, this data can be actually given away. Actually, it is really in most of the end-user licenses, but nobody is reading it. If you go to Instagram, it's really in the data. It's really in the end-user license agreement. And people don't see that. People don't read it, They don't care. So, but actually, you give away part of your privacy. We need to be careful with the privacy, because it's really, really very important. But yeah.
Is it about creating more awareness for this, about educating the consumer?
It is. But that's part of the thing, of course.
Shouldn't there be a class in school? Why don't we do that?
I don't know, because I think it should be done in
Absolutely.
schools. It should be done really from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's at 12-year-olds even.
Right.
It should be, part of it.
It's about we have this discussion for the last 10 years because a couple of our readers are also teachers, and when they're trying to explain us about the technical environment they're facing in their school and how that looks like, and the way that they can educate the kids about new technologies and how limited they are, unfortunately. We're basically creating these privacy leaks in our societies by not educating our kids about it.
Part of it, yes, because they don't care, so they're not going to care anymore afterwards. However, there is, of course, still some good signs as well. We don't need to be always that negative as well, because there are some good signs. There are some organizations which are stepping up. There are some people who say, well, let's have a second look. Mm-hmm. So that's a good thing. But of course, you can't control everything, like I'm saying from the beginning. So that's a dangerous thing.
But I mean, it's still good for you guys, right? Yeah. I mean, for your business, this is amazing right now.
Well, the privacy issues is a different thing. But of course, all the threats and the malware is theoretically good for us. But what a lot of people don't know, it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. And actually,
can you still keep up?
That's the reason why we have new technologies built in the product. Because a lot of people sometimes I hear sometimes like experts saying like, antivirus, not really necessary, and they can't keep up with it. That's not true. We really can keep up with it. We have a lot of technologies built inside the products. However, most of the products have what we call paid versions. The paid versions have all the possibilities.
Exactly.
You know, they have heuristics, they have artificial intelligence, they have exploit protection, they have behavior blocking possibilities, they have whitelist, whatever, you know, they have a lot of technical stuff inside it. It's not only signatures that we got like 20 years ago. It's much, much more. And of course, that gives a good protection. So, yeah, but that's something which is needed, of course. And that's, of course, what's going to stop at least most of the attacks. And a second thing as well, what not a lot of people know, is that as a security company, as a security industry, we work together. This is very... Well, you don't see that often, because if you compare us with, chemistry or whatever, or pharma industry, it's completely different. But we work together. If we see a malware popping up somewhere in the world, it is sent from the other world to the other side to the other companies. So even if it's coming from G-Data, or if we detect something in the beginning, we pass it through McAfee, Kaspersky, Symantec, or whatever. And this is unique. Because, right. And this is necessary, because if we don't do that, we will be attacked again, you know? If we can't stop that kind of thing, if we can't stop the threats all over the world, we will be attacked again. So that's the reason why we work together.
Isn't it sometimes puzzling and kind of weird to see? I mean, due to the fact that G-Data just turned 30, yeah. And I think you have this offer for your internet security, so where you can protect 3 PCs for like 30 euros, right?
Yeah.
That still a lot of people think, okay, you know what, let's just go for the free version, right? So I think, how much is it worth it for you to not lose your private data, to not run into any kind of ransomware situation, and to not pay like 400, I don't know what's Bitcoin is right now, like $400 to pay 1 Bitcoin over to a guy somewhere in Russia or China.
Yeah, well, definitely, if you have ransomware, don't pay at all, because you're stimulating, of course, the creation of malware.
Yeah.
But people, companies seems not to realize this, you know.
I wouldn't pay it.
Yeah, I would.
If this would happen to me, I would just reinstall everything, because most of the stuff is in the cloud anyways.
Yeah, come on.
So, okay, I lost some pictures or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Of course, for companies, it's a little bit different, of course. Because, of course, companies, it's not always that easy. But still, you know, they have to have backups. Come on.
Exactly.
Come on. And if you have backups, you can roll back. Come on, that's the second thing. And so it's controllable. Theoretically, it means that their security, if you have ransomware, in my opinion, if you have ransomware in a business, it means that the security in that business is not completely good. There must be something wrong. Because you can protect yourself. You can protect by making some steps, you know. Okay, it makes life not that easy anymore, because you have to create zip files or archive files to send something through, with passwords, as an example, of course, because it's just one layer of the defense. But it's about more, you know. It's about giving permissions, for instance, to all the people inside the company. That shouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
A normal user is a normal user and shouldn't be an administrator. And that's what we see these days. Bring your own device. Everybody is bringing his own device with him, and is using the internet, is using the network as, and of course then they say, well, we have a big problem in our hospital, for instance, like in Hollywood. Where they got something like
it just happened recently.
It happened recently, where they got ransomware and where they actually paid, it seems. Well,
and that was like 15,000 euros or so, right? Yeah.
Crazy.
It was quite expensive.
So theoretically, you can protect yourself. Of course, it's not an easy thing, but still, you have your security solutions. But there are additional steps you need to take. But it seems that those additional steps which were taken or which were interesting, let us say, 15 years ago, everybody don't think about it anymore. It's about, blocking stuff. It's about, the right, the administration stuff. You don't need to be an administration for everything. You need to be a normal user. If you are a normal user, Yeah, well, and if you block something on the shares, for instance, you will not be, the encryption will not go on. It will not go on to the servers or on the shares on the network. But that seems to be that people are not, or at least companies are not realizing this anymore and not taking care anymore about it.
And by the way, you can constantly ask this question in the back end. You können uns also Fragen stellen, natürlich im Chat. Stefan was actually asking, what do you think about the integrated antivirus security and firewall that is integrated into Windows?
Windows 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Windows 10, okay. First of all, that's what we call, and that's also what Microsoft calls, basic defense. If you install, or if you buy an operating system, if you buy a new laptop, you need to have something on the computer which at least is protecting you at that moment from some attacks.
Yeah.
Actually, Microsoft is telling everybody that this is the basic defense. So you're free to get something else. This is a basic defense. If you look to the real world tests, and now I'm talking with, if you go to AV Test, if you go to AV Comparatives, there are two main big testing organizations. They provide tests and show what actually Microsoft is detecting. If you look at it, it's a basic protection. So it's not in competition with everything else. So it's a basic protection, and you should see it as a basic protection. So you need more. And if you see at those tests, you will see that it's only detecting 50%, 60% of all the malware at this moment. So it's not bad, but it's not good at all. That means you leave out, and also Microsoft knows that, they don't have all those artificial intelligence in place. Right. This is signature detection and cloud protection as well. So there is a combination. It's good, but it's not everything. So you need to have more protection. Look at the tests. They show that result.
I think actually a lot of users don't really know. The first time they connect into the internet, just a matter of seconds, basically, where a bunch of attackers are just scanning IP ranges, right? And they will immediately just hammer you and look for some holes in your first line of defense. And this is basically what the internal integrated system of Microsoft is there for. Yeah. Until people heading over to gdata.com to download the latest version.
Exactly.
This is basically...
That's basically what it means. You need to have at least some protection. It's a good thing, I'm really happy that Microsoft... Actually, we work together with Microsoft to see that everything is controlled in a good way. So I'm really... it's good for Microsoft to have that in place. And actually, Microsoft is not the only one. You have it also on Mac. You have it also on Android, actually, as well. Not a lot of people know that, but you have those a little bit. It's not the same thing as Windows Defender, which is actually in Windows 10. But it's a basic. It's a basic defense. It's what we call a basic thing to have, of course.
There's another question. Sebastian is asking. Why is there no security or protection solution or protection from GData for Exchange or VMware?
Yeah, yes, actually we have that. So we have So we have actually a specific protection for email, which is of course sitting on the Exchange server in this case. Yes. Okay. So we have those protections. If they want more information, they can have a look at the website, of course. That's definitely possible.
There we go. You're taking care of them. We've been already talking about, and I really like it, and you're absolutely right. I remember the first kind of, we didn't call it ransomware at that time, right? But just like 30 years ago, you had the first cases where people, I've heard at some hacker congresses at that time, right? That some criminals were working on this. It was, of course, completely different. I think it was a kind of send it to Western Union blah 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 account. It was in Nigeria or somehow.
Yeah, that's right. And in the case of 89, actually, it was to a Panamese kind of address, actually. Okay. So it was to Panama, and of course, I never did that. Of course, I tried to reverse it, and actually, I won the case because I could do it in 10 minutes. Yeah. And actually, that's how my whole job started at that moment, actually. By just getting the wrong diskette in my hands at the wrong moment. Actually, it turned my life in a completely different position, actually, afterwards.
I think about like 80 months ago, I wrote an article about the connected home of the future and the connected car of the future.
Oh, yeah.
And how interesting this is going to be for the security industry.
Yeah.
And for guys like you. But I'm constantly thinking about the scenario, yeah? There's one guy driving in front of you with a smart car, and he has a bumper sticker of any kind of political party that you don't like or that the hacker don't like. And they're trying to hack the car. I mean, we already have that.
Of course.
I'm just thinking about this BMW case where they were just, it wasn't even HTTPS, right? It's just, oh my God, who was doing it in a company like BMW?
I know. It's and this is, well, this
is scary.
This is really scary because it's going to become a problem at some point. Now it's not a big thing.
And
it's
what they could do with your car. I mean, this is a minor. The smart home might be a minor thing if they're going to order you when you're on vacation, like 1,000 gallons of milk, right?
Yeah. Well, it is of course part of the Internet of Things.
Yeah.
Actually, I call it the Internet of Trouble. Actually, this is my first statement. If somebody tells you that I was the first with this kind of statement, this is the Internet of Trouble. Actually, there are very good things with the Internet of Things. The connected cars, the connected cities, the smart home, no problem at all. We have positive things with it. The only problem, we don't have enough security experts to, battle against all those threats which are coming in.
Right.
And to help, actually, that industry. Actually, I'm giving a talk in Berlin, creating urban tech within 2 months or something, 3 months. I'm also talking about something like that. And what we see is there are two problems related to the Internet of Things. First problem to the Internet of Things is that everything is connected. The main thing of the hackers actually do not always try to hack, the system. What they want to catch is the password or one of the passwords you are using.
Right.
Like a kettle, you can put a kettle on the internet and control it and the temperature, or something like a hot kettle. Well, we saw a problem with that. It was hacked actually months ago. That kettle, the interesting thing is that you can hack it to get the password from the network. And that's the most important part. So they want to have that password because then they can do much more. The second thing related to the Internet of Things are, of course, the connected cars. And that's a little bit, dangerous at this moment because what we see is it's growing. Everybody is trying to use it. BMW, Audi, whatever, Jeep, Cherokee. Everybody seems to Tesla. All those big names. They have something inside it which is the connection to the internet at some kind of way. The big danger lies that the ransomware we see at this moment is getting to the cars when you drive your car. And that will be definitely, this is a scenario which will happen at some point. We're pretty sure about that. Of course, it will be not the next year, but it will be, coming at some point. And this is disturbing because this could be really, at that moment, this is threatening our lives at that moment. So we need to be prepared for that.
We need more awareness in general, not only in the media,
exactly.
But also in governments, right? In general, in society.
Yes, actually also the governments. And we try to do that, definitely with the help of the organizations. We try to do that in the EU. But it's a big, it takes time. And that's also very hard, It takes time to get there and to see that there is an evolution in protection, which is not that easy, of course, because you have so many different factors. You have so many different actors as well. Everybody is creating something for the smart home these days. And everybody is connected to each other.
Right.
But and so how can you control part of that possibility, part of that process to stop all those threats is maybe there is some organization now standing up, which is something like an organization of the Internet of Trust or something like that. And don't remember the name exactly, but anyway, that organization is trying to do something for it. Try to handle the threats and for the Internet of Things, but it's really of course very difficult because you have so many actors in that field and which are coming up and popping up like everywhere. Also over here at the CeBIT, you have so many actors as well. Are they really prepared to have all the protection in place? Well, that's
I would
not the
doubt
case.
that.
Well.
I like the combination of Internet of Trouble and Internet of Trust. Because it will definitely backfire to the trust that you're putting into a system, that you're putting into an infrastructure that we set up. We're constantly online anyways. Right?
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago, we were talking, I don't know, what is online actually? There's only one life, right? There is no online and offline. That makes no sense whatsoever.
That's completely rubbish, of course, because at this moment, everybody is online.
Yeah.
Except maybe even old people are online as well,
Right.
So we're all online, and it's that's fading away. The online offline thing is fading away. We're running with a server. We haven't running, but we're running around with a server. That's our mobile phone.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
I've just had one of the product managers of the one-on-one server business here, and I told them, sometimes I'm going to websites like the really super low-end server farms where they're selling you old hardware and you can still kind of rent it like for €10 a month. And I was just thinking, why don't you just connect your smartphone to it, because it has more performance and it draws like 100% or 99% less energy. 100% less energy would be nice.
Yeah, true.
But this is amazing how much computing performance we carry around in our pockets.
Yeah, but still people don't realize it,
Yeah.
and also people don't realize that they need protection for it.
Right.
Which is another problem. If you ask over here, and they should be aware of it, because most of the people are interested in well, at least in computers and in security, well, more or less over here. At least they are interested in computers. They should be aware at least about the security problems related to mobile phones. But ask over here how many do have a protection on their mobile phones. That's... Oh my God, it's less than 50%, it's 40, 30%. I'm not going to, it really depends.
I would say it's less than 15%.
It really depends from the country, and it depends from where you ask it, and it also, of course, it depends from,
And I have to admit, it's even me. Because I have so many phones. I can constantly get a new one.
Of course, that's of course. But there is, of course, a difference between iOS and there's a difference between
don't get me wrong. It's of course.
Of course.
I know what you mean. Here's one big problem. And it starts with an attitude like this, what I just gave you. Yeah. And that was, of course, completely wrong, right? To not have any protection on my mobile device. By basically coming along with a little bit of a big mouth and I know it all attitude, I wouldn't open this attachment. I wouldn't download the APK from this kind of weird source. I wouldn't do that. Actually, I wouldn't do that. I would really not do that. Right?
I know.
My first line of defense is happening in between my ears.
But that's already a good line, because actually that's what I like I was saying, the cyber problem related to, the human.
Exactly.
It's actually the first line in defense. You already are right in that one, But, there's still that technical factor. And that's something you can't control completely. Because it's improving. And we see that there are much more improved attacks. There is ransomware actually at mobile phones as well at this moment.
Absolutely. Plus, they're implementing it into apps.
Yeah.
They're getting even through the security lines of the app stores.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
They're getting approved over there.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, like a million people are downloading this app, and then you have a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, because a lot of people think, okay, I'm safe if I go to Google Play.
Yeah.
But that's not.
No, you're not.
That's not really the case. Of course, you're a little bit safer. That's true. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's not the safest area. Even So that's something people should realize at least. Yeah. But and then so you need a protection on the mobile phones. If you don't have it, install it now. If also to the viewers, if you don't have it, install it now. It actually, if you compare this situation, we are 2016. I compare 2016 on mobile phones to the situation of 2009-10 for PCs. If I ask the viewers, how many of the viewers did have not a security package on their system at that moment? Not a lot will tell you that, because most of them will have.
Right.
But if you ask now, how many people does have something on the phone? Well, less than 20% or whatever. And that's the problem. Yeah. So it is growing, and we see we have now more than 6 million threats on mobile phones.
Jeez.
Jesus, exactly. More than 2,300,000 last year.
And I'm pretty sure that they added at least 1,000 in the last 45 minutes during our talk.
Yeah, well, actually, it's every 11 seconds we have a new malware app on mobile phones.
Wow.
Every 11 seconds, yeah. So if you count, you can count what you want, you know. The interview over here was about 40 minutes now, 45 minutes. I try to count it. It's a lot of malware.
That's a lot of malware.
Yeah.
Once again, which is good for guys like you, right? With G-Data, it's working towards your business.
We're just closing the gap. That's what we do. We're just closing the gap. That's actually, it's also the name of our engine. But anyway, it's closing the gap. That's what we try to do. We try to protect the customers. We try to protect actually the user. Actually, that's also part of my life. I try to give tips. I try to give normal tips to everybody. You know, I try to protect users. I try to protect everybody, and I love this job, you know, because it's. I feel that I'm doing something good for the people, at least.
Well, it gives you a kind of ethical and moralic position, right? Somehow, and I kind of like that. No, which it's good, is perfectly fine. It's what you're doing. I agree.
I like it because I like to help people. So why not? In this case, in my role, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I wrote the book.
Let me quickly check the chat.
Yeah, maybe there are some
Christopher is asking, will there also be a G-Data iOS app? Is there one available on the App Store?
That's a good question. Actually, there will be. Actually, there is one which is being approved at this right moment. So we will. Yeah, really. It takes
forever. I know.
It takes forever to get through that process from Apple. Apple guys, please do it. Yeah, make it quicker. You know, please. Okay. So Anyway, Apple is. Anyway, very good system, but so slow. So we will have indeed an iOS app, and that will be, of course, dealing with anti-theft. It will be dealing with a VPN connection, and there will be also a safe web browser in, so that it's protecting you against all the phishing pages and something like that, because that's also happening to iOS users, of course, because they think nothing can happen. No. The cyber criminals can, of course, steal your Apple ID and all those kind of things as well. So these things will be in it, and much more as well, you know. But the only thing we can't do from Apple is scan completely the system, because that's impossible. Mm-hmm. So Apple is actually blocking the whole industry. Apple is really blocking the whole industry for protecting their users. Of course, it's maybe not really necessary completely at this moment, but the threat is growing. We saw already some threats which are actually really are able to really be able to install themselves on normal iOS machines. So, you know, and not jailbroken iPads and iPhones. Actually, there's a new one just came out, just 1-2 days ago, Ace Deceiver, which is a new one. And it's actually, you know, it's like a Windows app. So it's a Windows application, a Windows program, which you install in Windows. So Apple can't control that, So Apple can't control that. And also, it's propagating from the Windows system to the iTunes system to the iPad and the iPhone. So this is the future, Apple.
That's actually pretty smart, right?
It's actually pretty smart, because we have seen some other apps, of course, which are not usable only if they are jailbroken, of course, those devices.
Yeah.
We have seen some pretty good example of iOS capable kind of malware on not jailbroken devices, so you can do it. It is possible to install malware, but of course it's still limited. And we have seen this. We've seen a couple of examples in Germany, in UK, a couple of them, but most of them in China.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not a big thing, but this example could be a bigger one. If this is going to be misused in the future.
I'm going to put it on the next level in about 40 minutes, because this is when Nicole and me are getting shipped over here, live in front of the camera, getting a little RFID chip into our bodies.
Oh, nice.
It's going to be quite interesting. I want to see how that works. Maybe I'm going to collapse right in front of the camera. So there's quite some potential for that video to go viral.
Also a quite interesting thing,
Yeah.
The most problematic thing about RFID and all those implanted chips or whatever, everything is it's coming very close to our body.
Right.
So the only thing what I'm a little bit fear of is that, we could have maybe a virus infection through the chip in our body. That could be
we'll see. I'm
really bad.
I'm gonna get it into my left hand. So they got really small right now.
I'm really exagrerating.
I know.
I'm exaggerating now, but still, think about it. Think about lenses.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with you.
You know what I mean? And we're going into that direction. With
totally
virtual reality.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Well, this is going to open a lot of other scenarios for malware writers.
Totally,
definitely,
with you. Absolutely.
Yeah, and this is going to be a problem. Take it from me.
As I said, during my article where I was kind of describing the situation of getting your car hacked, your car is getting in your garage, and then it's getting connected to the infrastructure of your smart home, right? And they kind of figure out that, oh, look, he's going on vacation for 2 weeks.
Of course,
so the best thing maybe that could happen to you is basically someone is hacking your stereo and is only playing this goddamn one song that you hate so much 24/7.
Yeah.
The second one could be maybe he's going to order 1,000 gallons of milk while you're on vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
And that would be quite expensive.
Exactly, yeah.
So those scenarios would come up.
Yeah, or they could put up maybe your oven, and if you're not at home.
Exactly.
And that could be giving a problem. So, and then of course they're going to ask you ransom for unblocking the system.
Eddy, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure. It's good to talk to someone who's in this industry for so many years and just basically got through the history of computer viruses. It sounds kind of weird, computer virus. Now it's like,
I know.
It's just they're everywhere.
Yeah,
anyway,
I know.
There's still a lot of business for you left, right? I don't know. That will never stop.
No, it's not finished. It stays and it will stay on for my whole life, I think. Unfortunately.
Thank you so much. We're going to have a quick break, and Nicole is going to be back at 3 with SMAP One, which is a startup. And let's see what Sven, he's a CEO and founder, is going to join her. Let's see what's happening with those guys. And then I will be back at 3:30 with a guy from Dangerous Things, and then we're getting the RFIDs into our hands.